welcome and appreciated. Although, I can't really imagine how any of that would work out. I'm traveling pretty regularly at the moment and don't really have a home point at the moment. I'm kind of slightly nomadic, at least for the time being. So really any sort of guild or collaboration of sorts, I fear would have to wait until I come across something a bit more permanent.
She nods, and at this you hear a couple of little, like, kind of low snickers from a couple of people in the crowd. And again, she just barely turns her head to the side and has her head down just a little bit, and right away they change to coughs and throat clearing. She turns back to you and says, Ahem. As I was saying, it would behoove you to know that one of the benefits of a guild such as ours is that we span throughout the wandering family circle. She says, you know of this, yes?
Do I?
It doesn't strike you as familiar, and when you don't really respond right away, she says, there are actually many of these, and she just kind of waves a hand around her in the environment. And she says, these wandering facilities. She says, many times when people find an entry point, they experience visions near the Nexus key that show some of the others of its ilk. She says there are many of these that wander throughout this world and through multiple planes of existence simultaneously. And she says our Mages Guild has the benefit of having chapters, active chapters, throughout each of these facilities. She says, and so membership in one retains benefits in all. And she says, and with that, unfortunately, I must adieu. She gives you a very courteous kind of bow, and she says, until we meet again, good wizard.
Slight bow back. And
okay.
Thank you.
All right. And as you do this, she nods one last time and turns and begins walking away, quickly encircled by several of her staff. But you notice that these people are so... I mean, these are true professionals, because as she leaves with the guard most close to her, the others remain and just kind of stand watch. And they all, leave in sections kind of covering each other. A very well-layered defensive strategy in your experience. So as they depart, Monica steps forward to you with her strange shadowy form and looks up at you with those blue eyes and says, now, where shall we begin? Okay, from there, I want to go ahead and jump over to... Actually, where are we at? Okay, guys, we are at the 2-hour mark. Let's go ahead and take our break.
Woo! Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I got my Be Right Back up. And I'm going to go use the restroom, let the dogs out, and I will be right back.
Okay. Yeah, Brent, you surrounded by fine women.
I really wanted to... I had this line that I wanted to say, but they left already. I was going to be like, I'd rather be a wandering vagabond than a bunch of hyenas cackling, chasing the scraps from your pride mother. But I did, yeah.
Man, they would have got fucked up, bro.
I know. I was like, Ren might have had the balls if you guys were both there, but without
right,
just...
exactly.
It's just like...
yeah. Smart thinking. See,
you know when... Remember in Big Lebowski? Have you seen Big Lebowski?
Yes, of course.
Julianne Moore's character, the eccentric daughter of Lebowski, her little thin mustached sidekick who's always like That's just what I pictured. All these fucks in the background. Fuckers.
Fucking Akama getting bewitched by that twerk magic. I said that milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. That's
Dude,
her fucking
dude,
tattoo power.
Fucking Dust Till Dawn, Selma Hayek. Just think about that. Just be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's undercover baddie. I don't know.
Being a baddie.
And give you an undercover fatty.
Yeah, bro, if she give me an undercover fatty, I'll be bewitched forever, dog. Take me home. Sorry, guys. I found another clan to become with.
Me and Seraph are gonna run off and get married. She promised everything. Akama, why are you just in your street clothes, and what happened to our money? Seraph said it was part of the wedding present. I don't know. I woke up in a seedy motel bathtub full of ice. Oh shit.
I think my kidney's gone. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty sure the bitch stole my kidney.
Damn.
Well, Akama, roll medical on yourself. Fuck.
Do I have to? Can I just call someone in? Damn. Man, you over here with fucking fanboy Lars.
I know, he's fucking tweaking out. Like, I'm trying to get information out of him. He's fucking rock hard.
Fucking
trying
drooling.
to drink away his fucking...
Let me bring a
No,
whole...
I can't fucking ask him about anything in the neighborhood right now because he's fucking too focused on Miss Seraph over there. Gotta talk to this punk-ass hipster barkeep.
Yeah, motherfucker looked at me like, you sure? I'm like, bitch, give me my drink.
I am gonna walk over and talk to this gorilla posse eventually.
Bro, just call me.
Since I've encountered him before, I was looking up the name, so...
Just call me. I'll come fuck him up. I mean, talk to him.
No, you're right. You're within eye shot, and I'm bringing Wotek too. So.
Fuck the whole crew. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they got a big ass gorilla. I'm bringing a big ass bear. Feel me? Like, even playing field.
This is it. The boys versus the revolution.
Right. The revolution. Fucking milkshake magic Atlantean. That's.
I just looked it up. There's actually a tattoo. That,
Max? Really?
yeah.
That's lore based. That's crazy.
When he said that, I was like, oh fuck. Oh fuck.
no.
And I looked it up in the book like, oh fuck. Oh fuck. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how
Lars
to
willingly
move it.
submitting to it. Like, you weren't having an aneurysm or anything, so Ymir wasn't that concerned. If your eyes rolled in the back of your head and you started like twitching out or something, that would have been a different story.
Well, I snapped out of it. Now it's just like, damn, this bitch got some power. Ooh, come here, girl. You want a drink? But I literally wrote down a bunch of questions, and when he came up to the table and sat down, I was just like, oh, well, yeah, I was gonna offer you a drink, but you snatched it out of the fucking table already, so I guess,
Right.
yeah, let's take a drink. Like, he nullified like two of the questions I had already ready.
Yep.
But I try to go work around it.
No, yeah, you just got to go with the flow. I've had that happen so many times I've had some scenes loaded up or some questions loaded. It never goes that way. You just got to fucking
At least I
work.
had it. Just in
Right,
case,
exactly. No, that's the important thing. You had it.
then it sound like a doofus, like, you're so beautiful.
Oh my God, Ymir, she's so fucking fine. I know, Lars. Sit the fuck down. Get a drink in your system. Calm the fuck
Bro,
down, fanboy.
I'm gonna get
Calm
on
the
my
fuck.
comms and I'm gonna hit up fucking Red and be like, yo, I got some sexy ass bitch trying to dance on me and shit. He's like, you
She
got
kinda
your
gave
hottie, I got my hottie. What's up,
Right.
boy?
Next thing you know, fucking Ymir is gonna. There's gonna be some big fucking giant woman, some fucking
Yo!
Game of Thrones bitch. Fucking big woman.
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
where's the big woman?
I can't wait. That's gonna be a fucking day. There's gonna be some big ass 12-foot fucking
Right,
hunk
some
of
Amazon,
sexiness.
fucking more muscles than me, right? Some death by stew bitch.
She's
Yeah,
like
I fucking love to see it.
half Amazon, half orc or some
Right.
shit.
Fauna term, she's an 11, like straight up 11. Yeah.
Yo, like ding ding ding, like she broke the scale and shit. He's just like, oh fuck, this bitch is sexy. Yo,
I
what
will
if,
murder half this bar just to get to talk to her?
bro? What if this dancer has a friend that's like that? Just like she's in the back
Go
cooking.
plant the seeds, bro, or do. I don't
She's in
care.
the
Fucking talk to
back.
her. That would be fucking hilarious if he made a new NPC.
All right, I am
just-
back.
Oh, there
No-
he is.
Nothing happened. Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to find out what's how much longer can everybody go today, so I'm sure I'm kind of managing
I got all
this.
day.
I mean, we usually stop about 7, so that's like an hour and 20 minutes. That's good by me.
Okay.
It's fine for me.
Okay. Excellent.
It's 5:40 right now, just for reference. So, hour and 20. Did I get that right? Maybe hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, let's see. Going live again. Okay. We are back. As we switch back over to Ymir and Akama, let's see. I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of, explore or do whatever you're wanting to do. Now that Seraph has begun dancing again and the band is starting to pick up, most denizens of this area are just kind of chilling out and enjoying the kind of nightlife. You guys are smelling lots of delicious scents coming from the different food vendors. And there are, like I said, several different little drinking establishments and different, buildings and stuff around that look like they might, hold some fun and some interesting activities. But it's all just kind of dealer's choice. So as you guys are there at the table, what are you interested in doing?
I was approaching the bar. I was approaching the bar and the bartender.
He
Oh,
had
that's
left
right.
already, and it's just me and Lars at the table.
Okay, so let's go ahead and stick with Ymir then. As you get to the bar, what would you like to order? Like, how do you?
Ymir courteously, first of all, nods towards the barkeep, and before he places an order, he speaks in an inquisitive tone because he has some questions. He doesn't want to bother Lars right now because he understands they'll get to their conversation whenever they do. The night is still very young. But Ymir is looking for information, and with Lars in the state he is right now, he's probably in no mood to give him the lay of the land or whatever. So he figures he'd ask a local.
Now,
So
were you wanting to go to the bar that was the closest one to the table you guys were at, which is
Yes.
where Akama
Yes.
had been picking up the whiskey? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I want to talk to the little hipster bartender that
Okay.
Akama was talking to before.
All right. So as you approach, he kind of gazes all the way up to your 12-foot height, and as he's cleaning a glass, he just kind of takes that image in. He looks slightly surprised, but fairly unfaded, and he just kind of looks up and raises his eyebrows, kind of inquisitively. So
Ymir nods respectfully once towards the barkeep, keeping his tone low and kind of stoic but respectful. And he goes, "Good evening, barkeep. If you would be so kind, are you a local around here? I have some questions. Can you give me the lay of the land?"
at this, he shrugs one shoulder like, probably. What do you got?
Well, Ymir, without pointing, so let's say he turns and looks at the group with the large gorilla and the men around the fire across the way from him, and he says, "What's their story?" Just very calmly, very inquisitively, but calmly. He goes, "What's their story?"
At this, he continues washing the glass, and he kind of steps around through the batwing doors on the side of the kiosk, and he actually walks over to stand beside you. And as he stands there, you realize that he's trying to make himself look open. He's obviously denoting that he's standing next to you, and he's looking directly over at the group, and he nods towards them and then points a finger that's wrapped in a dish rag. He points a finger directly at him, and he says, "Those are the gorillas." He says, "They're here for the people." And at this, he just does a real simple nod in their direction, and you realize that he's just kind of let them know that he's talking to you about them. And as he nods, he sees several members of their group nod back to him.
Ymir is grateful for the information, understanding the exchange, what just went on there. He's very familiar with even the nonverbal communication of what went on there. So to get his foot in the door, because it's only proper, because he is very interested, but he wants to show that he comes in peace and he shows respect towards this mighty beast and the that he saw before, and the group around him. And he goes, "Thank you, dear barkeep. A round of your finest ale sent to the boys, then. Tell them Ymir sent it, and I will speak with them. But yes, let me know how much it is, and I will be glad to settle up with you right now."
Okay, and at this, he pulls out his little credit swiper and holds it up, and you see that it says 300 credits on it.
300, okay. Let me go in here and just double check.
And he says, by the way, he says no ale. He says wine.
Where do you find your money again? I forget.
Oh, no worries. It's in valuables.
It's an equipment, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's...
Oh, equipment.
Core skills and equipment. It should be universal credits bearer and...
Got it. Okay. Well, seeing the selection and Ymir not really knowing not really understanding the delicacies of something like wine. He just asked for the best, and so he's taking the bartender's word for it. He graciously looks into his pack and pulls out his personal universal credit card and deposits the 300 credits
Excellent.
to cover the round.
All right.
So
and as you do so right away, the bartender begins getting it all set up. As soon as the charge is run, he gets a couple of servers to bring over several bottles of what looks to be from the packaging, it looks to be a very simple and unobtrusive kind of design. And you would guess that it's some kind of more like local kind of spirit rather than, something that's, mass produced. But as he brings the bottles over to the group, you hear a couple of the individuals around the fire actually let out low cheers. And as they're told who it came from, they all look over at you and one hold the bottles up, and they actually seem to have some kind of little ritual practice where the bottles are still corked, and the large gorilla individual seems to reach over to each bottle in turn and use two fingers to just snap the top off of the bottle with the cork in it. And as they hold these bottles up over their shoulders and he snaps the tops off of them, they all in unison, including the gorilla, take one of the bottles with the broken tops and hold it pretty far above their heads and start pouring it back down into their gullets. And after each one of them takes a huge measure of this, they all put it down at the same time, wipe with the sleeve of the opposite arm, and then hold up a single fisted hand in the air in your direction and yell, "Revolution!" in unison.
Well, noticing this gesture, Ymir raises his fist up, just like them, almost copying the gesture at first. He doesn't say revolution, but what he does is he makes the fist and then puts it directly over his heart to show a sign of respect, almost like a salute, a gesture of
Right
almost
on.
a salute. And
Yeah, not always smart to endorse the old revolution on your first night in town. I get you.
exactly.
I get you.
Well, openly with his voice, it carries in a small little wooden
Right.
neighborhood like this. I'm
He
pretty
blows some
sure they'd
windows
be
out.
able to. Right, exactly. But Ymir, understanding that it is a salute or a gesture of respect and kindness, follows it, puts his fist up, balls up his massive fist, and just places it over his heart once as a gesture of a salute back to a kind gesture, understanding that the two groups now have a mutual respect or a mutual understanding of each other. His
Right
foot's
on.
in the door, respectfully.
Excellent. All right, and so so they reciprocate and kind of go back to their drinking and are, getting occupied with that. What else?
Well, when he sees this, then after they share that mutual salute, Ymir wants to actually try to approach them now, understanding that they're both on good terms, that he's shown himself to be a friend, not a foe. He's not going to approach them under the bonds of combat or somebody they don't know. He just looks over at Akama like, if you need me, I'll be over here, like keep us within eyesight. And so Ymir says Wotek, wherever Wotek is, and goes Wotek, Vakna, shield wall, which means come to heal, because he would like to introduce he notices this mighty beast that this group has, and so he wouldn't think that it would be respectful or honorable if he didn't to introduce his animal companion along with himself. So he calls for Wotek over to come to heal with him and starts to make his way over to the group.
Okay. All right. As you do so, Wotek heads over to take up his position by your side, and as you guys move forward towards the group, you see that people are parting in front of you to give you access. And as you approach the group, the individuals all look up at you and just individually kind of nod. They seem just accepting. A couple hold out a hand towards a large stump that's off to the side around the fire, kind of indicating if you'd care to sit. And you see,
I was just about to ask. Perfect.
you see that the large gorilla is basically, this thing is so hard to, there we go. The large gorilla is basically just eyeing you very cautiously but openly, not really seeming hostile or anything like that. He's just very interested in this kind of large fellow kind of giant of nature.
Mm-hmm. Very similar to the look they exchanged when they first encountered each other.
So as you lead Wotek over, a couple of the humans actually stand to kind of get a better view of him and kind of walk around the sides of Wotek a little bit just to kind of look at him and stuff. He's cautious, but Wotek is very comfortable in situations where he knows that you're going to be kind of taking the lead, and all he has to do is just bite the head off of anything that gets out of line. He doesn't have to do a lot of kind of thinking or socialization. So in these situations, he's fairly comfortable letting people be relatively close and knowing that if something's wrong, you're going to kind of be the buffer. You know what I mean? And as this happens, these individuals are very respectful. They don't get too close to him, but you do hear several different languages being spoken as they all seem to be kind of in awe and making comments about his size and how deadly he must be in combat and so forth. The whole time, the gorilla simply gazes at you with those kind of jet black reflective orb eyes.
Blackest eyes. Devil's eyes.
And so you see that there is a lot of intelligence behind them, however. And he kind of sizes you up and takes a couple of glances over at Wotek. You notice that this creature looks strong enough to go toe to toe with you and be, probably a hell of a good sparring partner. You're not sure what level of strength he has, but just from size alone, this is probably a hell of a capable combatant. And from the veneration he seems to be getting from his companions, you would guess that he's actually the leader of the group. Okay.
That's clear.
At this,
judging by his presence.
Right. At this, you hear for the first time a low and grumbling tone come from this gorilla as it says to you, "Welcome, traveler."
Thank you for your kind welcome, mighty one. I noticed you earlier in the Warrens. GM, can I get
that's in the Berg.
The Berg. Greetings, mighty warrior. I noticed you in the Berg. You have a aura about you. I greet you kindly, and I thank you for the warm place for me and my brother by your fire. I am Ymir. What is your name?
At this, one of his companions simply blurts out, kind of roughly between swallows of his wine, he blurts out, "This is the Capitan."
The captain.
Okay, and at this, the gorilla just nods very subtly.
Hi, Captain. So, I ask this in all respect. I noticed you taking an interest in me earlier. What business would you have to discuss with one such as me? Are you a merchant of some sort?
Okay, at this, he leans forward, kind of over the fire a little bit, so that his face is well illuminated. And you see his eyes flick over to a table about 30 or 40 feet from your guys' current location, off to one side. And as he does so, you see him mouth the words and slowly enunciate, "Not here." Now, as you follow his gaze over to its target, you see this individual sitting at one of those, sitting at a similar table to yours, or to the others around it. And you see that this individual is actually, he's currently wearing a long black kind of trench coat, but other than that, he's in the same kind of garb. You see that he's wearing what almost looks to be like a kind of stylish brimmed black hat, and from the bulge under one side of the front of the chest of the trench coat, you would guess that he's packing some kind of like rifle or shotgun sized weapon for self-defense. But whatever it is, it's something relatively bulky, so you would guess it's probably meant to pack a punch. This individual is, he's got his head kind of down, so it's hard to see his eyes. But now that you've kind of looked over at him, you're able to identify that he definitely is watching very closely what's happening with you and these gorillas. He's got a large stein of some kind of frothy beverage in front of him. And he also has a lit, what looks to be some kind of cigarette between his fingers in one hand. He simply puffs away slowly on this cigarette as he sits there among the crowd, immersed in the music and tumult. All right. As you gaze back over at the captain, he just gives you the smallest little acknowledgement of a nod that's exactly who he's worried about. As this happens, let's jump back to Akama. You're right in front of Lars, who is just staring with a slack jaw over at Seraph. As she dances before as she dances before the firelight, you see that he's already gotten up like 3 times in the couple of minutes you guys have been sitting here. He's already gotten up 3 times and deposited large wads of what looks like the local currency into some of the tip jars located around the dancing floor area. He looks to be trying to make a real big presentation of it each time he does, hoping to catch her attention. You notice that there's also several other individuals that are kind of playing the same game, and obviously this is a great way for her to make some serious money, other than the job you saw her engaged in earlier. Okay, so Akama, as he is watching her transfixed, what would you like to do?
I want to tap him on the shoulder to try to get his attention.
Okay, he turns around towards you immediately and says, yes, sir.
Question. How long you known this dancer?
He says, here for a few years. The whole time she keep me entertained. She is a beautiful spirit.
You know anything more about her aside from her fantastic performance?
He says, he looks at you a little bit leerily, almost kind of wary of where this line of questioning is going. And he says, you give word, you mean her no harm, yes?
Yes.
Okay, with this, he seems to consider it for just a moment, and you can tell, like, he's really considering it for a moment. She seems to mean that much to him. Then finally, he kind of nods in acquiescence, and he says, I think she has a kind of magic.
You don't say.
Yeah, he honestly seems like this is a big revelation, so.
Can you be more precise on what you're saying? Can you elaborate for me?
Okay, he nods, and you can tell he's starting to get in his cups a little bit. Like, he's already pounded down a couple of these nice big ales and his honey spirits, and he's working on another beverage. So he's not sloppy, but he's real enthusiastic at this point. So anything that makes him happy, he gets real happy.
That's
And
what I'm talking about.
as you say this, he actually gets up and comes over and plops down next to you, and is now staring like straight across at her. And as he's sitting next to you, he leans over a little bit, and you can smell the heavy kind of odor of smithing oil and flint and steel and rust and all kinds of leather and shit from his profession. Just literally smells like a blacksmith, like a smithy. And he leans over and he says really low, he says, "My Sputka. You know this, yes?"
I gave him a kind of like a confused look.
He says, Sputka, my Habenstrasse. You know, and he stands up and he actually pats his crotch. And he goes, "My Sputka." He says,
my eyes widen, and I said, "Oh, Sputka, yeah."
Now, as he says this, he looks up because he's getting a little louder than he meant to, and he notices that the dancer's looking at him. And with this, he kind of shrinks down a little and sits back down real quick. And he leans over and he goes, "My Sputka, it doesn't work. There was a smithing accident. I almost lost. But there's still a bit of Sputka left. It doesn't work very well." He says, "So I I come, I see the dance. After years of no Sputska activity, all of a sudden, my Sputska dance too. Her dance make my Sputska dance. It's a miracle. No other woman has ever been able to make my Sputska dance like this. He says, and so I know this is magic. The look he gives you is like a man that's just split the fucking atom. He seems to have really figured out the core of his universe here. But that's what he offers.
I get like a half grin, and I pat him on the back and I say, "Very well. I'm glad that you found your solace." And
Okay.
then
He just has a
go
huge grin. Looks really appreciative.
I go and I turn my attention toward her, and just take a glimpse of her, and just basically take in her image, and kind of, how you say it, trying to peer more into her tattoos from the distance I'm in.
Okay, go ahead and give me a perception check, and let me see. You have...
Good luck to me. Gonna roll this baby.
comma...
Oh, motherfucker.
Oh. Oh no. I just
That
want
was
to
good.
check what...
It was gorgeous. And then it rolled weird. An extra little
shit.
notch. Well,
Lore, you got
bungalow.
magic lore. Why don't you go ahead and give me a roll on magic lore?
that's perfect. I would rather do that. Where are you? No modifier?
No.
Oh.
Nice.
Thank God.
Okay. So, and
Oh.
again, the way I usually do these is attack rolls. Most combat rolls are on a D20 and you want something high. Most skill checks are on a D100 and you want something low. The higher you get on the combat checks and the lower you get on the skill checks, the better result you're going to get.
Okay.
So anyway, that being so low, you're able to pretty much discern right off the bat that it is definitely some kind of tattoo magic. It's definitely a kind that you haven't seen before, and you're sure that this offshoot of it is not from the Chengku, which is, you've never seen you've seen offshoot tattoo magic. You've never seen a completely different discipline of it, right? So whatever this is, you had guessed that it breaks from Atlantean tradition by probably a longer time span than when Atlantis sunk. Does that make sense? When Atlantis first sunk, not the cataclysm
Yeah.
of Rift's Earth, but the first sinking. So definitely, yeah, definitely kind of unheard of. Okay. With that, what else would you like to do? As you're kind of absorbing this information, she's continuing to dance. You get the sense that she's kind of aware that you're still watching. She every once in a while kind of gazes over at you, and will kind of actually lock eyes. But you notice as you're watching her that she is incredibly good at getting the crowd kind of right in the palm of her hand, and there's a break here and there between songs where she's trying to actually actively encourage collection. of funds, and whenever she does this, the way that she's effortlessly able to just kind of glide through the crowd and whip up kind of like generosity on command, that's a hell of a skill. And her acumen with it is supernatural. The money that she's pulling in right now, there's no fucking way she should be able to be doing this. So there's definitely more at play here. And whatever mischievous activities are going on, she seems to almost be relishing doing it right out in public. Like literally doing it to people that should be able to see that something's being done, but instead they just give her money. That kind of thing.
Nice.
All right, as this is happening, Lars is still just completely entranced. What would you like to do?
I'm gonna go ahead and touch my 3-eye tattoo just to get a deeper visual of the surrounding area.
Okay, you go ahead and activate that as you fire up your supernatural vision tattoo. The patterns of mystical energy coalesce through the artwork on your skin and flare to life, instantly expanding your vision into many different realms beyond visual sensory data alone. Right away, you become very keenly attuned to the mystical nature that underlies all of existence and creation. And as your sight settles upon this mysterious, mystical dancer, you see that your full image of her is completely supposed by a kind of white, blinding hot filament of a figure. The luminescence that's being shown out from her form is so bright that it doesn't make you shield your eyes or look away, but focusing your vision directly on her is actually a bit difficult. Kind of like looking at the edges of, the sun through darkened glass. So as you're kind of trying to get a clear image of her, you notice that this same radiance appears to be just kind of melting and pulsing off of her in subtle waves and eddies that are flowing out through the crowd. And as they're impacting the different members sitting around of her viewership, each of these kind of waves and kind of arcs of energy seems to just kind of flow around and partially through each individual, leaving a kind of visual residue after each wave passes that denotes some of this energy is staying present within that individual. The impression that you're picking up very strongly is that there's almost a signal being pulsed out from this individual that is heavily enchanting all those around her. Now, as you look down at yourself in this instance, you see that you've already been able to ward off the effects, and so you're seeing your normal mystical residual energy represented. You don't appear to be being affected by this any longer. But as you gaze over at Lars, the man is a lighthouse beacon. He seems to be so thoroughly just kind of enveloped and charged and saturated with this energy that more than most of the people in the crowd, he's actually shining with quite a bit of luminescence from it himself. Not on her level, but I mean maybe a quarter as bright. And as you look around the crowd now, you notice there are at least a dozen other individuals that are similarly much brighter in response to this magical waveform than their companions around them. And it makes you wonder if some people wind up being almost overcome by this in some way. Instead of a transient, short-term enchantment, it makes you wonder if a person can actually have this build up within them and make you kind of almost, long-term enchanted by it. Okay. Also, as you're looking around, I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything else that you'd like to look at while you have your enchantment up?
Yeah, I want to look toward Ymir and his crew to see if there's anybody that is charged as well,
Okay,
or at least faintly.
as you look over at Ymir, give me a perception roll, please. Okay. All right. As you look over at Ymir, you don't see anything necessarily out of the ordinary. In fact, as you look past him at the gorilla creature off in the distance, you don't really see anything mystical about him or his companions at all. They actually look completely vanilla. But you do notice something. You notice that Ymir appears to be heavily focused on another individual at that precise moment. And as you gaze over at that individual, you see that same figure that was sitting and watching your companion in that current moment. And as you see him with his trench coat and his hat and his cigarette and his stein of ale, you see a complete darkened aura around this individual, an almost dead spot of magic that seems to be centered directly on him, and it seems to extend out for several feet. Very rare to see anything like this, and usually this almost like darkened vortex effect on an individual usually denotes some kind of anti-magic capabilities or anti-magic aspects, something that deadens the metaphysics of the supernatural. The applications of this are completely unknown. It could be anything, and what this really means could be anything, but you are definitely picking up a potent anti-magical kind of aura about this individual.
Can I see if there's any like invisible entities in the area as well?
Okay, as you're kind of looking around for that, you're actually not picking anything up immediately, but go ahead and roll a perception check.
Just in case, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Perception roll, take 2. Hurt.
All right. Unfortunately, after looking around for a few moments, nothing becomes clear to you.
I figured.
All right. All right. Let's jump over to you, Ren. As you stand before Monica, and she holds her shadowy book in her shadowy hands and looks at you with her pale, glowing blue eyes. She inquires. She says to you, she says, the first thing that I will need is your formal name for the registry.
Just for purchasing spells, I need to register. I thought you were supplying me with non-registry spells.
She says, No, sir. You are being given a selection from the non-affiliated registry. She says, I do need to register you into our database to have clear and concise records as to who we sold potent spell works to. She says it is a part of our charter to remain in compliance with local authorities.
I'll glance over at Cypher briefly with kind of a slightly worried look. I'm not sure. This is Ren just kind of worried about being tracked or found out by his family.
As you look over to Geiger, you
I said Cypher.
No worries. As you look over and kind of, just kind of raise an eyebrow to her, she kind of speaks up a little bit on your behalf, and she says, I would challenge the article of registration in the interest of anonymity for a new patron. As she says this, Monica just kind of glances over at her and then nods and says, request accepted. She says, you will be given access to level 1 through 4 spell works, designated non-anomalous or cataclysm inducing. At this, she opens her book broadly to a certain page, and light begins shining out almost like a view screen on like a tablet. As she turns it around to you, you see in beautiful etched energy calligraphy on the almost holographic kind of image in front of you, the names of all commonly known level 1 through 4 evocation magical spells. Next to them are price points that seem to denote what roughly you know to be kind of the going rate for buying spells, at least how it's been explained to you before. Nothing really sounds way out of pocket as far as either being cheap or expensive. But it looks like it's about 50,000 credits per spell level. And from what you can see at first blush, it definitely has all level 1 through 4 level spells available that you know of. Now, these qualifiers about being non-anomalous and, non-cataclysm inducing and stuff, you're not really sure exactly what that's referencing, but as far as you can tell, in the spell book, 1 through 4, you can pick. And then, if you'd like to, she lets you know that if you'd like to take some time and consider this, they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and she can be found at this location simply by calling her name out. She said this is a designated zone for guild business, and so I will always be available to you. She says, I would have you know that registration and affiliation with the guild is a serious matter indeed, but it comes with many significant benefits and perks. She says to not beleaguer you with an overabundance of information, I would give you this, and she produces between two of her shadowy fingers what looks to be a business card, and holds it out towards you.
I'll take the card.
Okay, as you take the card, you see that there looks to be a couple of little glittering, glimmering, shimmering, kind of purple and pink runes that seem to be etched on it. And as you move it around through the air, it appears to kind of trail little wisps of that same smoky kind of substance behind it without losing any of its overall mass. As you take the card, and I take it you want to just put it away in a pouch or something?
I would.
Okay. As you put it away, she continues and says, the most important benefits of note are reciprocative services throughout the wandering. She calls it menagerie, and discounted prices, as well as security and protective services when staying at any location. With this, she says, if you have any further questions, I would be happy to address them now, or as stated, you may contact us in the future.
And how would I contact you?
She says, simply by returning to this location and calling my name.
Okay. That again brings into the issue of me traveling. I don't know if or when I would be back to this location.
Well, she says if you're interested in purchasing any spells right now, of course I can help you. She says, but you must keep in mind that any spell will require at least at least 12 hours worth of study and tutelage to be able to imprint and truly learn effectively. She says that's the time cost of each spell. The monetary cost obviously has been shown, and she says so we could set something up now, or at any time in the future you can return and call out. If you go to a different location, any within the Wandering Menagerie will have a similar a service set up. So if you simply seek out the Mages Guild, you'll be dealing with fellow representatives of the same institution. She says there are, of course, an infinite number of guilds out there for one to choose from, both on this planet and throughout the Megaverse. She says, but of course, biasedly, we recommend ours. She says, it is something special, if I do say so myself. And as this being says this to you in this particular kind of cadence, it actually makes you shudder a bit as you wonder how somebody who almost seems like a bound servant to this organization could say something like that. It's definitely a little off-putting. Okay, so essentially that's where she's trying to leave it. Is however you want to handle this, it's totally up to you.
I'll lean forward to look at the list of spells and prices, and I'll just kind of do a bow, lean forward with my hands behind my back.
Okay.
And kind of hold out an arm slightly to my side towards oh my god, I want to say Cipher again. Oh my god, Geiger. And and I'll say, and you're saying this is around 50,000 credits per spell level.
Correct.
And then I was reaching out to and see if she would give a squeeze or not, whether that would be a fair asking price.
She doesn't really respond. It sounds that you would guess that she doesn't object to that at all.
My funds aren't as abundant as I'd like for the amount of spells here, but there's definitely one or two I could see myself purchasing, but I don't have the time now to spend to learn. I'd have to reconvene with my party and discuss with them before I would make said purchase, but it would be okay for me to return here when I have the time.
At this, she bows very humbly and says, "Of course, sir." She says, "If there are any other services we can render, please simply make us aware, and we would be honored to do business with you in the future."
I thank you, and I hope I haven't wasted your time by not purchasing now, but I promise you I will be back.
And she says, "Not at all." She says, "That is exactly what I'm here for." And with this, as you say you'll be back, she just kind of just evaporates in a little wisp of misty kind of smoke and is gone in an instant. Geiger looks over at you and says, "That actually went pretty well."
Was it not supposed to?
She says, "I anticipated a bit of resistance selling a complete outsider any major spell works." She says, "But I think she took a liking to you. Strange."
Is it that strange?
From your experience, what you have been told about guilds in the past isn't a lot, but it's usually that a guild is good for like a mage that's traveling. Any main city, major port is going to have like at least a small mages guild that will offer some hospitality, while they're in town. Whether that's even just a bed to sleep in and some food and a small like office to use with, candles and lights and shit so that you can do your work.
Like a nationwide gym.
Exactly.
It's town, but I still work out or whatever.
Exactly. And so in that sense, you would have guessed that you could have expected at least a little hospitality as long as you observe proper protocols. But you have heard that they're pretty restrictive when it comes to just straight up selling magical knowledge and stuff. Now, if you're a member of a guild, they are all about that. That's the whole reason to join, is that you can slowly start really expanding your magical base by utilizing every other member. But usually,
definitely interested. He's just still very paranoid about putting his name out there.
Absolutely. Usually, from what you've heard, though, it's really not common to be able to start purchasing like spell magic or, items or anything like that until you've been at least made an associate. And usually to do that, from what you've heard, it's not just you sign a form, you da-da-da-da-da. There's like a whole process, and you usually have to do some things to kind of prove yourself or already have kind of a name going, and there has to be a level of trust before you're kind of let in the circle. So anyway, this definitely, from what it does seem like you kind of advanced forward faster than normal here. Okay. At that, Geiger's just kind of taking your lead here and just wants to see what you kind of want to do next.
Well, I guess we should probably meet back up with the rest of the group. They were expecting us after your little interaction. And I don't want to take any more time away from you since you have so precious little time, so you can get back to doing your jelly, your slimes, and your drugs. But I do want to ask you one thing. You have so very little time to be free, to be yourself, to feel anything, you say? Then why would you dampen that with insane amounts of drugs that are taking that away from you, of actually feeling something, feeling yourself at least? I mean, you seem to be monitored at all times while you're in your other form, and you seem to be a slave, and then the little bit of free time you have, you enslave yourself again. with substances. It just...
Okay, and as you say this, she reaches down and grabs you by the wrist again, very surreptitiously, almost unnoticeable in a crowd like this. And as she does so, she looks you right in the eyes. She locks eyes with you and gets just a few inches from your face. And as she does so, you can see that the kind of glassy, kind of gloss over her eyes, that kind of hazy look that she'd started to develop already, it's still there, but there's a kind of clarity behind it now that you're this close that you could see although she must be very intoxicated, there's also a very clear, concise consciousness active currently. Like the will of the woman isn't really deadened. And at the core of her will, this kind of voice comes out. And she says to you while looking at you in this really intense fashion, eye to eye, with this kind of willpower just emanating out of her, almost a dedication to a principle showing really brightly in her expression. As she leans in closely, she grips your wrist very tightly for just a brief moment. And in that moment of connection, she says to you, incredibly seriously and somberly, "Why would I do that?" And as she does so, she makes an interesting gesture with her fingers onto your wrist after squeezing. And the gesture feels kind of familiar. You're not quite sure where you would place that from. Let's get a perception check. Okay. You hearken back to when she slipped you the small case in which the orange slime had been contained. Okay? You get a quick flash of a very similar motion that was used to slip that into your possession secretly. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that, she leans back and releases her grip on you. And just stares. Just kind of looks at you.
I'll motion towards her arm and hold my hand out real quick as just asking for her arm briefly.
All right, and at this, she holds it out to you willingly.
And I will write on her arm, I'm sorry if I pushed too far, and then we'll just start walking back to the group.
Okay, as you do this, she just snakes her arm around your back, basically, and acts like she's, like, holding on to you and walking side by side, and off you guys go. She doesn't give any outward appearance of, acknowledgement, but as soon as your message is done, she finishes the gesture and you guys begin walking. And you're heading back to the group, was that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right as you start heading back to the group, you get a strange little alert coming from your wrist computer. And as you look down at the monitor, you see that the probe that is furthest from you guys right now actually is hovering in front of an individual who appears to be looking right into the probe's camera. The probe apparently feels that this is something noteworthy, and as you bring up the live feed, you see that the probe is in front of this individual. This individual is actually looking into the lens of the probe and appears to be inhaling some kind of magical force directly from some type of artifact or techno-wizard device. As this individual is doing this, you also see that the holo display covering her right eye appears to be pulling up some kind of magical incantation recipe that for some reason sparks a bit of interest in you. It seems incredibly complex, but also something that has a shocking familiarity to it. As she leans in towards the lens, you see a bit of a smile creep across her face. And as she stops inhaling the energy feed, you see her seeming to hold it like breath inside, with small flares of energy coming from her eyes, nose, and between her tightened lips. You also see a subtle shimmer of energy coming up from below her skin itself, almost a haunting, transparent skull effect happening from the energy she's containing within. Her smile broadens a bit, and she holds the artifact a little closer to the camera before setting it down out of sight and then holding up a finger and making a come hither gesture with it towards the lens. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and switch back over to Ymir as you sit by the fireside on the stump with your companion Wotek close at hand and the gorillas before you. You are able to choose what you'd like to do next. What are we doing?
Well, in response to the captain of saying not here and understanding the subtle gesture towards the shady, almost commandant, it reminds Ymir of the commandant that the raiders have in the Warlords of Russia, kind of their military police that enforce their rule. And he just thinks to himself, he doesn't say this out loud, he sort of just grunts like more bloody ravens, more people, more eyes watching. So to keep the conversation subtle, given what the captain just said to him, Ymir just leans in close and goes, "We'll speak later, yes. It was an honor to meet you boys. Enjoy the drinks. I'm sure my compatriots and I will be around somewhere around here. Reach out whenever we can. Speak properly." And then he steps up and goes, "Come on, Wotek," and begins to make his way actually down the street past the police figure towards where he faintly noticed the goblins, the little goblin-like creatures that perceived him in interest. Still, maybe he looks over and peers to keep one eye out just on Lars and Akama, just to be still within eyesight of them, but his curiosity has got the better of him, and he wants to go see what the very tiny ones have taken such a keen interest in him.
Okay. All right. You start heading in that direction, and very quickly you're able to close the distance. Nothing, that interesting kind of happens. And as you approach the location where you saw the goblins, supposed goblins, peeking at you, you see that they were kind of behind a brick building in an alleyway. And as you turn down that alleyway, you actually see from the darkness emerge these two individuals. Okay? Now, as they step out at first timidly, you see the shorter of the two, almost looking childlike in appearance. He actually looks up at you, and in a strange and melodic, reverberating voice, he says, Mr. Giant, and nods his head very, very slow and low. With this, his larger companion bows at the waist extremely humbly and holds it for a protracted period of time. The cat that you see actually stands on its two hind legs, and with the hat that you see on the ground, it holds the hat in one pawed hand and sweeps it in front of it in a bowing gesture of great import. You notice that the cat's eyes glow a dull white, and there's something about the cat that looks to be maybe not fully alive. There's a manginess that seems to cling to it that's unsettling. As the taller goblin stands erect once more, the shorter quickly jumps up onto its stool, the small barrel you see, and the cat throws the hat down in front of the barrel as the young goblin begins strumming away on his lute. As he does so, you hear a very just calm and almost mirthful kind of Victorian kind of melody start wafting through the alley. And as it does so, you see these beautiful green kind of ghost lights start flickering about their forms. The music seemingly generating some kind of energy about these two.
How does Wotek react to all of this?
He is completely calm, 100% just looking with actual interest, but very, very relaxed. As the music begins playing, you see that the taller of the two begins doing an almost kind of operatic kind of serenade in very low and hushed tones that seem to be keeping pace with the music and seem to be kind of in direct alignment with the kind of light show that seems to be happening. So as the music plays on for just a moment and his singing begins getting just a bit louder, the lights become more intense and almost more solid in the alleyway. Now, in contrast, the rest of the alleyway begins getting much more dim. And you notice right away that what was once a fairly brightly lit alley has now almost taken on the atmosphere of a stage somewhere, with the entire background losing its light and all lighting becoming much more dramatic, and a strange, almost like spotlight coming down from directly above on these three, what you would guess are some kind of performers. Now, as this is all happening, you take note of the strange markings and ritualistic scarring that seems to be all across their forms. And you also notice there's something dark and very sad about these individuals. You can't quite place it, but something a bit familiar just out of memory's reach. As you watch and they begin playing louder and more brusquely, the small one looks back up at you and says, "We only wanted to peek at the wee beast." And with this, he nods forward at Wotek, and Wotek just kind of cocks his head a little bit to one side and just kind of like looks at them, just kind of wonderingly. He doesn't really seem to recognize them, but much like you, he seems to have just a whisper of that at the front of his mind. Okay, with this, what would you like to do? Wotek
Well-
is kind of just holding his ground next to you. You guys are probably about 20 feet away from them, and he's just standing next to you, just kind of like waiting and taking your cue.
Well, Ymir is going to look at Wotek rather intensely, sort of like give me a reading, or let me know what you're thinking. Give me one of your vibrations. When he kind of taps him, like, do you if you want to go see them, you can, because obviously he hasn't shown any signs of aggression or hostility, and he can tell he's curious, but he's literally saying to his shield brother bear, the mighty mega damage bear, I'm leaving the decision in your hands. But he just strokes and pats him gently, just as a calming thing, as he kind of looks at his brother like, it's up to you, brother. Whatever, if they want to just take a closer look at you, it's the decision's up to him.
Okay, as you do this, he kind of looks up at you just kind of respectfully, and then he looks forward and he plods over slowly until he's just a few feet in front of them. And as their playing gets a little bit louder and a little more kind of boisterous, you see that the cat begins kind of dancing around on the ground, and their whole kind of entertaining act begins to kind of crescendo. And as it does so, they hit the final note. The cat takes a huge bow and actually winds up landing on its two front paws doing a handstand. And the young one jumps up and lands on his feet and almost does like a little guitar, kind of drops down to his knees and does one last huge kind of strum of his lute, rock star style. And the taller one actually bows forward, and when he does so, he puts one hand on the ground and goes up into like a single handstand and spreads his leg and his legs and his other arm out into like a wide kind of shape, and is doing some acrobatics. So they all freeze on this last kind of note, and you see the crescendo of light kind of finishes as well, with some almost solid panes of light seeming to appear instantly for just a moment. And then as everything fades and silence washes back over the alley, you see that Wotek is actually kind of swaying and enjoying himself. And for the first time in a while, he seems really relaxed and just kind of at ease, and like he's seen something that's like pleased him. Now, the music to you didn't sound that interesting or exotic, but there was a strange kind of back note that you were picking up on a very low level through the whole thing. And as you were starting to feel the urge to kind of hum along. You're not sure what exactly was going on there, but as soon as the crescendo's over, the young one looks up to you, and he says, I hope the pair of you enjoyed it. And he leans in close to the cat for a second, almost in surprise, and he says, what's that? Right. And he walks over, and he paces over to you within about 3 or 4 feet. And as he stands there, this diminutive little creature looking up at a 12-foot giant, he reaches an arm up into the air, and he wiggles one finger down, beckoning you to come down to his level.
Ymir follows the very small one's orders and kneels respectfully in front of him, almost like a knight once again, down on one knee.
Okay. As you do so, He looks up at you, and you still can't see all of his face, just a huge gap in his teeth. But he's keeping his hat down enough to kind of keep himself a little bit mysterious. And as you lean down, he says, "Further, further," and he beckons you once again.
Ymir follows the request and leans down even further.
Okay. And as you lean in very, very close to him, he kind of is starting to kind of look up, and he reaches up with his hands to grab the sides of your face. He's slung his guitar back around on his back with its leashing. And as he reaches up, he literally wants to, like, put his hands on the side of your fucking huge face.
Ymir, sort of taken back by the, he can tell his request just by his hand motions, and he's a little perplexed, but if it's not an uncommon thing for somebody of that stature to want to touch a giant's face, if I'm honest, especially given his past experiences. So, he continues to lean down with him.
Okay, so as you lean down, he places his hands squarely on the sides of your face, and he pulls you in a little bit closer. And he kind of looks at your mouth really closely, and he says, "Open."
Ymir instantly pulls back slightly at this request because he doesn't like where this is going, because the last person that wanted to see what was in his mouth was trying to take one of his teeth for a ritual.
At this, as soon as you pull back, he stomps a foot down hard enough to you actually see a crack in the stonework of the floor crack open at the impact of his foot. And as he does so, this stomp is accompanied by him thrusting both hands straight down at his sides and getting this just completely impetulant look that goes across his features. And as soon as he does that, he reaches up and he does that, like, come here gesture, but he does it, like, angrily, like, really hard and fast. And as he does this, you see that the cat stops doing its little handstand and it actually kind of cowers just a little bit. And you see that the taller of the two, he actually gets this kind of fraught look on his face, and he shrinks his head down between his shoulders, and he makes a rolling gesture with one hand towards you, like, do it, do it. Now, as he does so, you see Wotek looks over at you, and in a very lazy, casual kind of way, he just lolls his head once, like, kind of signifying everything's fine.
Okay, well, that changes things a little bit, at least in the time being. Seeing his brother's reaction puts Ymir more at ease and less, all that hostility drops away. All of the, that trepidation, let's say, falls away, and he leans forward, granting the little one's request.
All right. All right, so as you lean forward, you drop your giant jaw open, and you're damn near, you would be able to just swallow this little fucking thing in one bite. But as you open your jaw, it places its hands back on the side of your face once again, and it starts peering in from what you can see around your nose. It starts peering in to your mouth. And then it stops and it kind of pulls its head back a little, and it moves its hand over to the side of, like, your jaw on the left, and then to the same place with its right. And then it starts moving backwards a little and feeling along your jawline and going down kind of like the length of part of your neck in a straight line. It almost feels like right where the main arteries that feed life to the brain are. And as it's padding these areas. It very quickly finds something on the right and on the left at a certain point that it seems to feel like it seems as though it's found what it's looking for. Now it gives a weird kind of like pushing in kind of gesture on each of these points, and then it pulls back and seems to kind of nod in acknowledgement to itself, and it says, okay. It says, hold very still. He says, this might smart just a bit. Knife! And with this, the taller of the two produces a thin, silvery, what almost looks to be a straight razor. Its blade is only about 4 inches long, and as he pulls it out and hands it to the younger flips it open, and you can see that the blade of it literally is silver. Not just, coated. It looks to be actual silver work.
Silver, like the dagger in my pack. Okay.
And as this creature stands there with this knife next to your open mouth, it says, my word, I shall do no ill to you, sire. He says, you have the voice, but 'tis stifled. He says, as though you have never used it. He says, a moment, please, and a bit of trust, and I shall heal thee. And with this, he slowly starts edging his way into your mouth and reaching in with his right arm, holding the blade. What would you like to do?
Ymir is going to look at Wotek, given this situation, even though he was given the okay, like, do it. The situation has definitely escalated, so he wants to find out what his reaction would be.
He's actually looking at you, and you see something in his expression that denotes a bit of... He almost looks like he's looking a little bit guilty, but you're really not sure why. But he gives you a complete nod of approval, like 100%, just absolutely kind of like, yes, get on with it.
Then, given that nature and that the fact that they've reforged their bonds as brothers and they were taught not to lie to each other anymore, Ymir's going to take Wotek's suggestion and just let him do whatever he's planning to do. Obviously, there's something that this creature can unlock in him with this sort of display of power, and if Wotek is saying go ahead and do it, Ymir is all for it.
Okay. So you acquiesce, and as the being leans into your mouth, on the right-hand side, far back in your throat, you feel a quick, razor-sharp, slicing heat go across something that couldn't be more than maybe 3 or 4 inches long in a straight line going from front to back in your throat. Then you feel an almost simultaneous one on the opposite side in approximately the same location. Now, as this happens, at first, everything felt fine in your throat, but as you feel these 2 quick strikes, something happens almost immediately that makes you feel like you've got a cough. And as soon as that sensation hits, you hear him say, aye, hold it. And as he starts what feels like clamoring out of your mouth and trying to get himself completely out, you can't help it, and you have to let out a massive, cough. There's something, wrong in your throat. As you cough, you see him step back and just get showered in a nasty, yellowish, bloody, kind of pussy froth explosion that is probably about a couple of pints of this nasty stuff, as something changes in your throat, feeling almost as though your ears have just popped for the first time in your fucking life. It feels as though a channel has just opened up that has been completely constricted, and you never even realized how miserable it was making you. But as this happens, you expel out this huge blast of cough of this mucousy stuff, and right away you feel those two cuts actually whistle a bit of air out through them. And then as you take in a deep breath after the cough, you feel some air passing through those conduits for the first time ever. And you realize whatever the fuck just happened, he actually just opened something in your throat that shouldn't really have been closed. Now, as soon as you take a couple of breaths like this, you start feeling this strange sensation in your chest where almost a kind of billows feels like it's been opened up, and you feel as though every time you breathe in and out, there's a kind of resonance happening in your throat now that has this powerful kind of vibrational aspect to it that is very unfamiliar to you. You've always had a deep, commanding, powerful, kind of booming voice, but whatever's going on here, there's something that you can actually feel it creating like a rumble and a vibration within the gear that you hold and the all of the items that you carry. There's something very strange going on there. Now, as he steps back covered in this stuff, he begins wiping the thick globs from his face and then whipping his hands down towards the ground to kind of expel it down like unwanted snot from a child's fist. And with each glob, he gets himself a little bit cleaner. His companion pulls out a long handkerchief of blue silk and begins trying to wipe him off and dab him off to the best of his ability. The shorter one seems to be shrugging him off and just really off-put by the whole situation. But eventually he just kind of shrugs his shoulders, stops trying to clean it, and then looks back over towards you. And as he gives you a short, courteous bow, he says, "Supposing I should introduce myself. My companions and I were part of the carnival. Blood's Carnival. We've known your people for quite some time, and we'd like to help if we can." Okay, with that, we will call it good. Sorry, I know we went over time just a little bit there.
No, that was fucking amazing.
How dare you? No.
Wanted to-
Brunette goblins
I'm
gave
telling
me
my
voice
mom.
back.
I had to poop my pants for this.
All right, guys, I appreciate it. And now, bow your head for the patrons. BKZJT, Rapid 3642. Andy Sasa, Nova Rose, Kelly T, Tommy Gunn. The Z24 Colts, Jess H, It's. If you would like a special thank you at the end of each of my videos, and some other cool stuff as well, visit patreon.com/homegrown lore. Thank you.